rotation it's on and the general shape. Get some idea what the panels look like. And let's go to a different hole design. There's one over here. Let's look at this one too. This is designed to be a rowboat or sailboat. Yeah, either one. It's not a boat you paddle because it's so wide. You have to have two oars and work it like a boat in America. You don't. You can't reach over the side and paddle and put the paddle on the other side and paddle. You'll never get anywhere. It's pointy in the front and this doesn't have outriggers. It's wide enough that it doesn't need them. The bottom to be a sailboat, that shape might remind you of a surfboard. That panel, because that surfboard's plain. It's a planing hull, and this is a planing hull when it's heeled over to be a sailboat. It's got a bit of a transom on the back. You could put a bracket and like an electric trolling motor or something. This has got a wall around in here. That's the only open part of the boat, is this part in the center. You could have hatch covers or something front and back to store stuff like fishing nets or an anchor and rope or whatever. But this is sealed all the way around. And there's a few bulkheads in here which are sealed as it's built. So basically the flotation is air. You have to puncture every chamber before you could sink it. And then it's lighter than water, so it wouldn't sink anyway. We're gonna probably design a boat, something like this. Maybe this video, maybe the next one, I'm not sure which. And okay, what we got here? This is the kayak. Once you design a boat shape, which doesn't take long at all, it's a 15-minute project to design the shape of it. It's done in a way that's like bending paper. You can roll up a piece of paper, you can bend a piece of paper, you can twist a piece of paper. You just can't bend it in a compound curve, bend left to right and bend front to back. It has to change physical shape other than what you're trying to bend it. So the way these things are drawn up, it's made out of things that are totally flat. They're only curved in one direction. And this is the parts it takes to make that sea kayak. Like this is an upper side, this is a piece of deck. And there's two of each one. There's not that many actual pieces. Well, actually, in a way, there is, because there's a left hand and a right hand. And when you're making the thing, you can stack your plywood and cut the one on top will be the left hand, one on the bottom will be the right hand. Though it rarely works out that way because there's so many odd pieces you have to make that you fill in the spaces, and generally the sheets are all completely different. Let's see, this is like a piece of the bottom. This is the surface that was unrolled down here at the bottom, the purple thing. This is the same surface in a different color. One tells me that this is from the model. Another color, it's on a different, what they call layer. It's like sheets of paper that are transparent. And the stuff that's drawn on the ones that we name green or lime or whatever, it's this thing up here. And then we have the what holds it together when you build it. Let's get down here. Laid out along this are holes. They're like 3/4 of an inch from the edge of the sheet, and these get drilled. It's smaller than 1/4 of an inch. It can be 1/8 of an inch if you're using tie wire, copper wire, something like that. It would be bigger if you were using twisted or pull ties. But pull ties are a one-time use. Well, I know I can unzip them too, but It takes longer to unzip them than that they're worth. But there's numbers here. And so this thing would match up with another part that's got holes that exactly opposite. These holes would be over here. And they'll have number 3s also. So, and a piece of panel with a 3 and another panel that's got a 3, you put them together. Because it's a closed surface, the first 2 you start with are the bottom. You would have one left and one right of this. And one of them would have, well, they both would have 3s on this edge here because they join together, 3 to a 3. And one side here might be a 4, and the other side might be a 5. In this case, our center seam down the bottom was 1. By convention, that's the first seam you put together is the 1s. The second seam you put together is the 2s. Third is the 3s. That keeps it symmetrical. But you haven't done anything to other than put these twist ties in, pull the pieces edge to edge. And when you've done that, you've got the shape of the boat. You can pick it up and drop it. You can twist it end to end without the bulkheads. A little bit, not much. It's kind of stiff. Okay, sometimes your pieces, this kayak is 24 feet long, so you can't make that out of a single sheet. If you draw a curve like this is commonly used in kits for kayaks and other things where you're using 2 and 3 millimeter plywood. We would use 4 millimeter because that's what we can buy at the local store here. This curve, you cut your piece in half with it, so this one and that one are exactly the same. This will press into that. And you put epoxy around the edges and you put a sheet of fiberglass across it. You don't want to put much because you want it to be able to bend without having a kink in it. But the whole idea of stitching glues is the stitching and the gluing. So, like here's the other half of that number 1. This is the bottom half. I'm not sure which side we were looking at. And here's what a 2 would be. Anyway, if you start out and you put both these right on top of each other, like, you know, and put some very loose wires through the one, then you flip this side over so that these are butted edge to edge. That's the only one you can do that on generally. This one you can do it on several of them, but normally most boats you can only do that first one that way. But the kayaks you can do several pieces that way. And then you start pulling these tighter, just twisting the wire, pull it and twist it, pull it and twist it. You work your way back and forth on the line until the edges come together. The next thing, you have to put some drops of some kind of glue or something. Doesn't take much. 2 or 3 drops of Gorilla Glue. It's isocyanurate glue. Is very popular, and that's quick. If you're trying to build this boat in 2 days, you want to use isocyanurate. If you don't care if it takes 2 weeks, then mix up some epoxy and dribble some on between the wires. Don't touch the wires. And once you get those drops of epoxy or drops of isocyanurate types of glue, you can take the wires out. And at that point, you're going to take a strip of fiberglass. You had a sheet of fiberglass, a rectangular piece. Cut it at 45 degrees from one of the corners, and then just parallel to that, you make 2-inch wide strips. You know, so a lot of them will be the same length, but towards the corners they get shorter and shorter. Anyway, you want that because you want the fibers running at 45. That way, every fiber crosses the seam. There's not half of them going this way and half of them doing nothing going the other way. But you get your what they call taping the seams. They call those tapes. You can buy tapes, and they sell them, but they're real expensive. Well, when you're building airplanes, they're real expensive. We use them a lot in airplanes, but we make them ourselves because we're going to make a 2-inch wide tape on this, and then we're going to make a 3.5-inch wide tape, and then maybe a 4.5 or 5-inch wide tape. You put the narrow ones first, and then wider and wider tapes. And the reason being that the fiberglass cloth, the little fibers on the end will stick up and be sharp as razors. And if you put your second layer on that covers that edge, then none of those can stick up. Only the last edge can stick up, and you have to sand that. And you would lay your you take a piece of polyethylene, put it down, and wipe some. Or actually, just take a cup and pour it one end to the other. Put your narrow piece, your next piece, your next piece, your next piece, whatever. Then you put another piece of plastic on top, clear plastic on top for sure.